Greetings to everyone out there in YouTube land. My name is Belle. I decided I wanted to do a mystic philosophy talk today. I've been thinking about a lot of different elements of my spiritual path recently. And one thing I've been thinking about is the way that my spiritual path is evolving so much. It's really growing and changing in different ways. And it's just really interesting. One of the reasons I'm reflecting on this is because I've been using oracle cards and tarot cards. And I've definitely been learning as I go. But I've been realizing that I can't just emulate what other people are doing. I really need to have my own path. You know, sometimes it's tantalizing or it's appealing to say like, oh, this person has the answers for me and this is what I should follow. But I'm realizing more and more that I just really can't follow anyone else's ideas. I can take inspiration from other people's ideas, but I really can't follow what anyone else is doing in terms of my spiritual path. Like, really. And it's like, I always say that, but then I come back around and I'm like, well, maybe this person really has some good ideas. Maybe this other person really knows what they're talking about. And I think everyone can speak authentically about their own spiritual path, but where it starts to diverge for me is I start to realize that people kind of talk with a certain sense of authority, and it's almost like they're trying to set up rules that people should follow, and that's where they lose me, because I think we deserve to have a sense of creativity and a sense of having this free open space of just thinking and creating for ourselves. So I wrote down some notes just to help me get through some of my main ideas. So yeah, I think I'm really interested in a creative spiritual path. I feel like I want the freedom and choice about how to live. I think we all have this amazing, brilliant freedom about how we can live our lives, and everyone's taking advantage of that in really cool ways. And it's really cool because the choices we make about our spiritual path or our life path really sets the tone and creates the atmosphere that we live in. So that's amazing to me, because when I was younger, I really fell into line with what I consider to be the dominant culture. But then as I get older, I'm realizing that I can cultivate the atmosphere that I want, and it doesn't have to be the same as anyone else's. I was just sitting outside earlier this morning, and it's kind of just some quiet time to enjoy nature. And there's a little wasp nest kind of being built on one side of the porch where I was. So I was like sitting in my chair trying to avoid the wasps, but they were fine. Like, they just wanted to do what they wanted to do. And you know, I'm in Texas, so the wasps are huge. They're almost the size of dragonflies. And I was just thinking how beautiful nature is. Like, even this wasp, which is very scary, just in some ways because you don't want to be stung by it. Even that insect is so beautiful. This is how much I was contemplating nature, that I was like looking at the insects and seeing how beautiful they are. But it almost gave me this sense that nature is so alive, and like so much in the world is like has so much life to it. And that was really exciting. And that's like part of my spiritual path, is to just appreciate how alive things are, how beautiful nature is. And I'm not the only one who's noticed how beautiful nature is. It's this common human observation. So in regards to how beautiful nature is, I was thinking how, like, when I was in school, I went to kind of a strict school for college at first, and you know, you learn in school at different times that the dominant culture has evolved past animism, I think they always say. And I was like thinking how messed up that is, that it would be taught in school that we've evolved past like what other cultures hold so dear to them. So just the idea that everything is alive and that we can have a connection with nature. It's like, supposedly, it's probably not even taught anymore. That's how old I am, but it's just interesting. So I was thinking that we can be fenced in by the structure of our dominant culture, but at the same time, as individuals, it's still our choice about how we live, so we can reconnect with nature, which is like what I've been doing and what a lot of people have been doing these days. So we get to, as individuals, observe and reflect on life in our own ways. Just because like some people don't respect indigenous cultures, don't respect other worldviews, doesn't mean that we all have to live like that, with that separation between us and nature being such a huge gap. So I almost am getting the sense that life is dynamic and energetic, and that actually life is, to a certain extent, responsive to our perception of how things are. For instance, like when I was living earlier in my life, in my early 20s, I was living very kind of a harsh mentality. I didn't really realize it at the time, but everything was more cut and dry to me. Like, you can't really think of any specific examples, but I wasn't that respectful of nature, probably. I wasn't that respectful of other people because I was all wrapped up in my own thinking and my own way of doing things. So it's like the idea of life that I got was harsh because I kept bumping up against things. You know what I mean? Like I kept like running into dead ends and hurdles, but it was the way I was living, which actually goes into an idea I was going to talk about later, that the quality of our being, that you bring to your own life path, and the quality of being is like your attitude, how you're feeling, type of mentality, and kind of like your inner life. So the quality of being of your inner life is going to really reflect on your life path, and it's going to affect your day-to-day life. And sometimes we think that life is really harsh, or that there's different kinds of stresses in our life that may be caused by our own quality of being, and we could perhaps change our inner life and have some type of effect on our day-to-day life and how we're perceiving things. So I think I spoke about this a little bit, but it's like I'm not really interested in a dogma or rules to follow, and I've noticed that some spiritual paths that people are starting is set up like a mini religion. It's kind of funny because like I feel like so many people are branching off from religion and wanting to do their own thing, but then you keep running into these other people who are setting up their own little things. It's like, what? So I won't name any names, obviously, but it's like you can see a lot of people who want to be a guru or who want to have a following of a certain type. And it's like, why? Why would we leave one fenced-in area just in order to be fenced in by someone else's ideas over here? To me, again, the creativity and the freedom of your own spiritual path in a really life-affirming and balanced way, like that's what's exciting to me. So in that vein, I just would really recommend or like really encourage people to just always think for yourself, because you have to watch out with some speakers or some books. They really start to use this tone of authority, like they know the answers, and I really don't think they know the answers. Like they know some good stuff, I'm sure they have their own life experience, but you have your own life experience too. So that's what's creative and that's what's vibrant for your spiritual path. So the reason I even came up with this topic of evolving spirituality or the evolving spiritual path is that last night I was lying in bed kind of contemplating things, and I got to what I would call the end of the sidewalk, kind of like that poetry book where the sidewalk ends, but I got to like the end of all the things I've been thinking about for the past few years. In some ways it was good because many of my questions about the spiritual path have been answered in different ways for me. And also many of the stories I've been telling myself about life were coming to their conclusion recently as well. So it's like I ran out of myths to live by. It was mostly liberating, and my path is going to continue onward, but it was a little bit disconcerting as well because it's kind of like you just have this open space and you're like, wow, like I could do anything and I can add any concepts to this open space. But it's interesting because it's like it just is such almost that shock or that sheer freedom and that open mind, I guess, is just like very makes you kind of humble or kind of quiet because you're kind of observing this open space and just realizing that there's so much more to learn. It's part of it. The thing I was thinking about last night was just like how little I know. Like all these ideas I had have played out, and it's like, okay, I don't have that much that many of my own like preconceived notions or something like that to play out anymore. So I'm really excited, in other words, about the rest of my spiritual path as it continues, because I think it's going to be very new and different, and I'm so open-minded about what I'm interested in right now. It's like that leaves a lot of room for discovering new things. And I guess that's a good topic or theme, discovering new things. That's a good place to conclude this little talk on evolving spirituality. I hope I have inspired you to journal or talk with your friends about other aspects of your spiritual path. And I will see you next time. Thank you.